Hey all, it's your girl Erin. So what I wanted to talk about today is some of the ideas I have for some games. So I guess I could start off by saying that I would really like to be working on these games myself. I'd really love if that was what I was doing all the time, or at least for, in my spare time. But at the moment, I don't know when I'm going to get around to working on them. If I get an idea for them, I make a note of it. But to actually sit down and develop them and do the work of making it into something that's got all the rules and people can actually play it and stuff, that's going to take a whole bunch of time, and it's the kind of thing that needs more time than I can afford. So I wanted to just talk about the ideas I have for those games. If you are somebody who wants to steal the idea, or steal, I don't actually believe intellectual property rights should exist. So if you wanted to take the idea and change it or keep it the same and make it into a game, that's really cool, just let me know when you're done so I can play it, because I really want to play these games, and if it's not fulfilling, if it's not satisfying the vision I had for it, then I can always just make my own version of it too. But maybe one day if I get the time. But yeah, so I really don't mind, and if you want the creative vision, you can hire me, I don't know. Anyway, I'll let you know what those ideas are now. So the one idea that I had, it's based on, so basically, just to give you some context, all my games are based in the same universe, and it's the universe of the book I'm writing that I've kind of said to myself I'm going to see if I can finish it this year, because 2020 is just such a cool year to have next to the release, the name, your release date name, whatever is cool. But I'm gonna give it that a shot. But all of these games are, in my mind at least, taking place inside that well, actually not one of them isn't, but the rest of them are inside that universe. And so yeah, when I do create them, if I do, I think I'll probably do my book first. That's the plan. So they're meant to enrich the book experience. People who like the book can play the games. It's a way for people who like the games, they might want to read the book, and hopefully both are fun and enjoyable and entertaining. And so it's a way of basically exploring that storyline, that universe, whatever more. So anyway, so that's the first game I wanted to mention, was my idea, where it's meant to be a farming simulator basically, but not on Earth. Actually in the asteroid belt. And so when you start the game, you'd have basically a random selection of asteroids with different sizes, different shapes, different chemical compounds like makeup. Probably if it's your first asteroid, it'd probably limit you to ones that have the stuff you need, like hydrogen and oxygen, and I haven't thought it 100% through on the specific compounds, but I would do research to see what is actually scientifically, it doesn't have to be 100% scientifically accurate, but at least have a thin veneer of scientific plausibility, just because that's a nice aesthetic for me, and primarily want to make stuff that I like as well. So yeah, so I just hope I have enough space on my storage to store this video. Okay, but anyway, I'll see how far I get, and I can always try again. So But then the idea is that you aren't going to be producing for exchange, you're going to be producing for use. And so it's going to have a multiplayer dynamic. We'll probably even have some AI as well for the multiplayer vibes for those who want it. But basically you'll be able to supply anything extra you produce that you don't want to use yourself. You'll be able to offer it to other players, and then anything they produce extra that they don't want to use, they'll offer to other players, and then you can find stuff you need and give people stuff they need. But it's not going to involve any trading or sales or buyers or exchanges or anything, no bartering. It's not like I'll give you X for Y. It's not like you can have some water if you give me some like food or whatever. It's like, no, I've got extra food, have some for free, whoever wants. I've got some extra water. Now it could be that you want to play with your friends, and then you might be helping your friends and they might be giving you something you need, and you might be giving them something they need. But it's not, even if you like outside of the game, or like, let's do a deal here where we help each other out, inside of the game it's still gonna be functionally as if you are just, you know, helping whoever wants. But you can choose like who you give the aid to. Like, you don't, it doesn't have to be just anybody, but you know, you could be like friends, like where you keep helping the same person in the game, but there's no mechanic for trading, for like promises or contracts, or, you know, it's like, no, it's like, even if it's like something that's regular, that would be like a mutual aid agreement where you like, but when I say mutual aid, people often get the wrong idea, because they think mutual and they think of bartering and trading stuff. That's not what mutual aid is talking about. Mutual aid is saying that aid, if I'm aiding you, then, you know, it's mutually beneficial in and of itself, just by me helping you, because then the whole collective gets healthier, because then more people in the collective have their needs met. You don't get something back before the mutual kicks in. It's mutual as soon as you are, as it goes the one way, and it's mutual in a sense that everyone involved in it is participating in that way, but it isn't meant to be saying that there are transactions or barters happening. And I think that's a huge mistake people make when they hear mutual aid. But it's not going to be that. It's going to be, you know, like, I'm offering all this stuff that I am not going to use myself. It's about maximizing use, efficiency on where, you know, because like if it was for exchange or whatever, you'd be like, I can make profits if I make this thing that's rare, so I'm going to produce a bunch of it and then try and sell it. And then what if nobody ever buys it? You've produced for no reason. Where when it's based on the mutual aid method, like, you would not have that profit motive. You would only need to make stuff that you actually were gonna see put to use, whether by yourself or someone else. Like, you might, no one, it doesn't mean someone has to have asked for it, but you might know, like, we are going to need this thing in the future, or someone is going to need this thing. It's not like, I hope, you know, I don't know. It's educated via the social zeitgeist or whatever, not via price indicators, if that makes sense. Anyway, the idea is that then you can, you'll have, like, I think they're called O'Neill cylinders. I could get that name wrong, but basically that's the way. It's not going to have 0G. You're going to be able to set your gravity, and then, well, I guess you could make it 0G if you wanted to, but that would be probably a feature that gets added on later, because you'd have way different mechanics for 0G than just having some amount of gravity. Like, imagine all your artwork and stuff would have to change, because even like 0.05G is going to make things tend to align in certain ways. 0G, it's like random. So I don't know, 0G feature would be like a DLC. But yeah, you would have a cylinder that's spinning to give you artificial gravity, and then you would basically be able to build, but you'd need to have the equipment and then the resources needed to build stuff. So when you first starting your base, you'll basically maybe have like it would be based on need. So I don't know if you'd want like this huge open cylinder and then you've got like one person living on the base. So you'd probably like want to have sections, which also helps for like safety. Like if there's a breach, you don't want your entire chamber to be vacuumed. So you might want sections. So you'd like start with one section, and then as it fills up, or as you want to, basically you can open up new sections and then start building stuff. But then the way I want to do it is like, let's say there's a certain resource that you need that's in the asteroid. So in the process of creating this O'Neill cylinder, the actual cylindrical part of it, that like plug basically, is gonna be like maybe put into orbit or something around your asteroid so that you can mine it or something later. So, but it'll be like, yeah, so you'll be able to say like, maybe you won't be able to mine absolutely everything you want. There might be limited, like you need to develop new tools before you can mine more difficult compounds, but you know, you'd have the ability to get stuff to get yourself going towards like making water and sort of being able to build stuff, like maybe some kind of material for a 3D printer, like a polymer or some kind of cement or something. You'd be able to make those kinds of things. And then I don't know, there's a game called Big Pharma, there's a game called Factorio, there's a bunch of games where you basically are building a machine. You know, you've got to like carry like from the raw ingredients to the one step of the processing to the next step of the processing on until you get to what you want out. So that's the similar kind of vibe where if you do want to start producing something from the resources you have on the asteroid, you'll have to do it via those kinds of like factory planning, where you like got to manipulate the ingredients by all the different processes, whether it's adding acid, heat, cooling it, you know, distilling it, whatever, like, and then you'd send it through the different phases of different strengths to get to the end result you want. And then so that will be like almost like a fun mini game, or there might be like prefabs you can use if you don't want to design your own. But anyway, maybe prefabs for some of the basic stuff, and then you've got to design your own for the more difficult stuff. That might be cool. Or I don't know, I guess you could even trade prefabs. Like maybe that would be something that people could make a machine and then save it, that plan, and then they could see if they can make better and more efficient prefabs and compare them and stuff, fitting different shapes. You could just make it like something you can trade like the blueprints with people. And then yeah, and then basically you're not trying to get a whole bunch of money or anything. You're literally just building out your base and letting more and more people arrive to, like, you could add entertainment for them. You make it like really cool, like into like a full space colony. Once your cylinder's full up, you could like start moving to another asteroid, like have a 2 asteroid colony and just grow it up, and then trading with people and just being able to make better and better and cooler and bigger stuff. And then yeah, so it's kind of like a sim in a way. It's not really a competitive game at all. You know, it's got that co-op vibe to it, and there might be some like superstructures that require like whole lots of resources and time, like people time, to develop that. You know, like, because maybe in the book I'm planning to have a space station that is literally a ring inside Ceres around the whole planet that spins inside the planet to create gravity. And it'll have to create more than 1G to make 1G, because it's got to fight against the dwarf planet's gravity too. But like that kind of superstructure might be an option where you know, it would take like thousands of people making like huge colonies to produce enough resources for it, and then once it's created, it's like an achievement or something, just to give there some sort of end point for people that don't just want to keep playing forever. They can be like, okay, like we've done all there is to do in the game from a like menu option point of view, but like Minecraft, you know, if you want to, like, that's like the Ender Dragon or whatever, but like with Minecraft you can just keep playing too if you want to, even beyond that. It's just a way to say like, don't feel bad about quitting now. That is actually an important game design thing, I think. So yeah, that's that game. I think it'll be pretty cool, and yeah, it could get like, you could get really deep into the cosmetic, aesthetic, decorative side of things with it. So it could be a game that keeps being improved over time. You could customize your colonists, like in The Sims, how you can customize people. But I wouldn't, you know, The Sims, I wouldn't want them to like have set schedules and stuff. I would want it to be like, maybe they have desires that they are trying to fulfill, and then you can give them different ways to fulfill it. But I don't, is that how The Sims works? I don't know, but they're not going to have to get a job at the least. And obviously there's going to be automation, so they won't have to do any actual, like, they wouldn't have to prepare their food or whatever, unless they wanted to. Like, but that would be like craft, like it would be like an art form. It's like, oh, you're doing it yourself, oh cool, that's like a cool game. Normally the computer and the robots make our food for us. So yeah, so that's the one game. Okay, so then there's another game I want to work on. I'm going to leave behind computer for the second, and I'm going to talk about a RPG game, but more like how with pen and paper and ability sheets, and so you would be able to play it with pen and paper, but it's also going to be made as an app. That's how I envision it, and it's not, there's not basically anything like complex to describe. I guess it's more like to give you the vibe of it. So there's going to be, instead of having the regular kind of ability stats, there's going to be stats like that are split between performance and intuition. So let's say it's going to have physical, mental, and social. So each of those has intuitive and performance. So what that means is, when you designing your character, maybe you want them to have really good instincts for social stuff, but then they maybe wouldn't be able to actually be a good public speaker. They would have high intuition and low performance, or the other way around. Maybe they like kind of they can't read the room, but they can speak really like smoothly. They might have high performance and low intuition, and that socially. Then physically would be like stuff that involves moving your body around, I guess, and then mentally would be like things that involve thinking. So maybe physically, let's say you get people who are like really quick to learn, like they pick up an instrument and it's like sounding good in a couple of minutes, or playing a sport, like they just got really good coordination. They get inventive with the things they can do with their bodies, So that would be intuition, and then performance, like they might be able to think of like, I could do this, or this will work, or that'll work, but then physically just not have the strength or dexterity or whatever have you. But it's all combined into performance to pull off the cool idea. Like, I guess if you played like FIFA, you might have the cool idea, you might come up with all these great tactics of how you're going to try and score, but then when you actually try to pull them off, you don't press the buttons properly. And if you had pressed the buttons properly, you would have scored, but because you messed it up. So that's what it's like, intuition versus performance, physically. And then mentally, same thing. Could be like, if you think of philosophy or even maths, do you like grasp concepts quickly? Are you a quick learner? That would be intuition. But then performance would be like, can you actually do the maths in your head? Can you hold a complex model of things in your head? And yeah, I guess even imagination to some extent. And then so those would be the one abilities, and then the other ability I wanted to add in there would be curiosity. Another one might be empathy, and then basically have one for speed. I'm not so sure about the speed one, but I know for sure I don't want it to be based on anything of the rest. I don't want it to be linked to your physical performance. I want it to be something, because there's going to be a lot of ways. So basically the idea with the RPG, so is you're going to be able to design your character, but their body is going to be able to be within reason anything. So what I mean by that is you're going to have the options of being either a regular human, a synthetic human, where you're still biological, but all your body parts are made up from like artificially created, whether it's bioengineered or could even be like sort of silicon based, I guess, but you still have a nervous system, you still have bodily functions, but because it's synthetic, it's way more easy to connect it to digital enhancements like cyborg stuff. And then you could be like a proper cyborg, like where your entire body is machine and your brain is digital. So then you'd be able to choose like which of those you want, but all it's going to do is unlock different kinds of base stats, but the stats are going to be weighted to specific values, so everyone gets the same set of values, like points to spend on their character. But then if you choose to be a full cyborg, you might have the capabilities of the cyborg artificially limited, dampened by, it could be like maybe this vibe where like you've just become a cyborg for the first time, so they limit you to like the normal human capacities of doing things so that your brain adjusts to it properly or something, like, because it's how you like, and then you can unlock the upgrades later on. But you would also be able to take away functionality, whether it's those ability scores, like if you start with the maximum ability scores you want, it just eats into your total point bias you have, or you might lower those all the way down, get way more points and spend them on something else. And then so your body's capabilities, that's also going to be using up these starting points. And then there's going to be the ability to have cybernetic upgrades, that you could also use these points on, or equipment. And the idea is that whether it's upgrades to a cyborg body, cybernetic implants on like synthetic body, or equipment on a human body, or whatever combo, I guess, of those, basically are going to equal the same performance for the same amount of points, so that your characters will, in theory, can all have the same like ability to do things, even if you started all with different types of bodies and stuff like that, because of the weighting. So to get the weighting balanced would be the biggest challenge of this game, I guess. And then when it comes to you'd also be able to do things like start with sort of genetic disorders, or deformities or whatever, disabilities, because that's just going to basically penalize you on certain abilities, but give you the points back for what it penalized you, and you can spend those either on something that brings those abilities back up. So let's say you're starting with short-sightedness, you get a certain amount of points back for that, and those amounts of points would equal what it takes to get glasses to bring you back to 2020. So you could choose to use it on the glasses and go back to 2020, or maybe you want to use the points somewhere else and play short-sighted and maybe get them later or whatever, or get implants that give you 2020 for the same amount of points or whatever. So yeah, and then when I guess the same thing when it comes to knowledge. So every time you level up, I'm thinking you'll get like a certain amount of points, and then you can spend them however you want. You'll also be able to spend them on skills. And when we talk about skills, we are talking about basically there aren't going to be any classes, so you're going to be able to choose anything from anywhere. Like, you could have any combo of skills you want, but each skill is going to have its own tree, so you're going to have to unlock them from the beginning up. So if you want a higher level skill in a certain area, you're going to have to start with the lowest level skill in it and work your way up like that. But you'd be buying points, spending points to unlock those. So then that's how the mechanics of it will work. The other thing is, like, when you attack, it's always going to be a hit. Now, that might not make sense if you've played sort of like Dungeons and Dragons, where there's something called an attack roll, where almost always, if you want to do something, you've got to roll the dice to see if it succeeds or not. Now, personally for me, I really hate having a turn and failing my dice rolls, and so my turn ends with me having effectively not done anything. Now, sometimes you aren't actually going to have an effect, so it makes sense to, in theory, have that happen, but the experience of it is just sucks. So what I'd prefer myself is if it wasn't always a success, then you rolled for how much impact it has, and then that might be reduced then by the opponent down to 0 if they're strong or whatever, so that it ends up not being effective, but you still did X amount of damage. It's just that it was too strong for that damage to be enough to hurt it, for example, rather than you missed. And one of the reasons why missing makes sense in Dungeons and Dragons is because people do miss in real life when fighting with swords and hands and bows and arrows and things, but because this is set like in 2069ish, or 2079ish, sorry, but I said 69, but it's going to be, that's the type of time period where the RPG takes place. Basically, projectiles, physical capabilities are going to be at like almost superhero-esque levels already, just because of the how far we are in the future, how far technology's come. Like, so missing would not really be that plausible when you have like auto aim and like really fast projectiles and really like accurate AI assisted like physical movements, or high, maybe high intuition to get to the same level. So yeah, and so the idea there is certain things might take X amount of damage to succeed on, but you can try again